Let's start with a gut check. Completely frazzled or really mellow? Frazzled? Mellow. Oh, we got a pretty good mix. Okay. The good news is there's a place for you wherever you are on that continuum right now, because it's Advent. Advent is a strange little wonderful season in the church year. It's only 4 weeks long, and this is fourth Advent. Advent is a time of preparation for the birth of Jesus, preparation to see God incarnate in human frame. And so we're in the fourth part of our preparation, and we've planned it very carefully. Let's look at the scripture to see how this works. If you look at Micah was a prophet many years ago. He was already an old prophet when Jesus was born. So Micah tells us how to prepare. And Micah basically tells us that spiritual joy comes from looking back and looking forward. Spiritual joy comes from looking back and looking forward and finding points of reference in both places. So even Micah is pointing back in the community and calling individuals to look backwards. And then Micah's looking forward and calling the community to look forward and individuals within the community to do the same. So now return with me to elementary school. Got that big piece of construction paper, remember that? The first time you ever had a ruler, remember a ruler, those flat things? 1 foot long maybe? And you drew 2 points. You put the ruler down on the construction paper and you tried to draw the line between the 2 points, and the ruler got wobbly and you made a mistake. Did you ever do that? Well, some of you are perfect, but I made a mistake. First time trying to draw that straight line between those 2 points. I couldn't do it. I felt embarrassed. What's the teacher going to think? It's harder to draw that line than we think. Even our school day memories remind us of this. And when we do it emotionally and spiritually, it's even more difficult. I see we have some beautiful, relatively young, one looks pretty old in the middle there, but relatively young children here in our front row. And I want to say to you that you're starting to build those points of reference for yourself and for your life now. In fact, you probably already have a few that are critical to who you are and who you will become. You probably have those anchors right now. You may not know they're anchors yet. You may have to live into that. And so I want to say to the rest of you who are a bit older than our younger folks here, that you have those anchors, those spiritual touch points. They're already within you. They're already within you, and you have them. Part of the season of Advent is to relax a little, to breathe a little, so you can remember those. So the busyness out there doesn't overwhelm you. What are they? What are those touchstones for you? What are those anchors that you draw forward? Micah reminds us that they're incredibly important, and that line, that trajectory that we see when we link with God's call and vocation, that line is a guide for us throughout our lives. And so often we come to a place from time to time when we need to clarify that line, that trajectory point. And it often comes to us, I think, with an experience of the presence of God that's so powerful, it feels disorienting. So powerful are we aware of God's presence. God is present with us all the time. I'm not talking about God now, I'm talking about us. Our awareness from time to time becomes more tuned and more aware and more awake. And then we experience God more powerfully. Of course, we say, well, God got closer. No, God's always there. God's in you and around you and with you and holding you all the time. I'm talking about perception, your perception. From time to time, your perception clarifies, and you feel God's presence more powerfully. At the deepest clarity, that feeling can be overwhelming, overpowering. And the saints tell us about that through history, what that's like. Today we see it with Mary. Mary has that clarifying experience. And so let's go to the chapter in Luke where the scripture takes us. Because Mary highlights an experience we also have, and it becomes exemplary for us. Mary's clarity with God gets so clear that she understands that she's being called into a new ministry, and that trajectory point is being clarified for her. But it comes as a disaster. The news that Mary received, the awakening she received that she was pregnant, was a disaster. The rule in that time, the law, would have said she should have been killed. That was a capital crime at that time. And so we've kind of airbrushed it, but at the time it was a disaster, and not just a little disaster, a huge, massive disaster. Imagine committing a capital crime today and realizing you've done that. That's what happened to Mary. That's how God's presence became more clear to her. And so she did probably what you would do. You go to someone who's older and smarter, and you bring your disaster there. You find your Elizabeth, who's further ahead, more mature, a little more clear. You go there, and in that relationship, you're able to claim the reality that's come to you. And you notice how Elizabeth responds. You know, Mary sort of walks up. I'm caught in something, in a spiritual reality that's much bigger than me, and it's going to overwhelm me and kill me. And Elizabeth says back, wonderful, great, I've been waiting for you. When I saw you and talked to you, I opened with God's grace. It's in that relationship with that mentor, that older, wiser person, that Mary can claim the blessing that is offered to her. From the external, it's a death sentence. But from her internal spiritual understanding, it becomes the source of her life and the gift that she can give to the world. And so she sings that amazing song that you sang and sang with our choir, the Magnificat. My soul magnifies the Lord. That's a pretty bold statement for someone who's just committed a capital crime. You know, sometimes we've sanitized the story so much that we lose the power. She's just committed a capital crime, and then she sings this song that is unbelievably radical, unbelievably hopeful. Reread the Magnificat and imagine if our world was ordered that way outside these doors. Life would be completely different. But when she links with her spiritual trajectory and she draws the points, past and future, with a mentor that loves her and guides her, when she does that, that's the boldness and the courage that she has. And that's the boldness and courage that you're called to. You've been given in this scripture a model for your own spiritual life. You already have a past with touchstones. You have people in your life who are smarter and wiser than you, and when you get real and humble, they'll talk to you. Notice how they don't talk to you when you're not real? You got to get real and humble. and you go talk to them about those touchstones and your yearnings, you've already been created in the image of God. You already have the purity of that yearning within you. Mentors and exemplars often open that up for us and bring us to our best self so that we can draw the line forward and pull it forward. And you've already been living in this way. You've already been singing this sacred song. Mary's song, the Magnificat, shows you your song. And so I ask you, what is your sacred song? What is the song that you can sing for hope, for peace, for joy in this world that goes far beyond you? Your sacred song is actually not about you. It's about how you'll engage something that's so much bigger than you, that your integrity will join the yearnings of others. Your sacred song often comes to you at the point where you feel most diminished, because that's what it does. It's so much bigger than you. It's so much bigger than you. I have a friend who was right before he was dying physically, and I had the privilege to be with him frequently in that time. Hours before he died, it's a little, he was trying to get from the toilet back to the bed, and he was struggling. And he said to me, "Bill, the world is ending. These experiences of the end of the world, when you sing your sacred song, will come to you, not just in the past, not just now, but in the future as well. They will be a part of your living and your dying. And so I say, sing now. Sing your song now. Get comfortable being overshadowed by hopes. Get comfortable being overshadowed by your hope for the future and your intention to live with deeper authenticity and maturity. That's what this season is calling us to do. To breathe a little more deeply, to open our hearts a little more widely, to listen a little more hopefully, and to remember that you've already been singing that sacred song. In fact, we practiced singing it together this morning when the altar party came forward. O come, Emmanuel. Do you know what Emmanuel means? God in us. God in me. Come, God, within me, and help me sing my sacred song. You've sung it together in here. Now it's time to get tough and sing it out there.